All right, so we're going to carry on now, and we have awesome educators who are about to join us. And I think Jenni Jones, sharing video now, I believe, Senior Manager, Instruction and Distance Learning from Willamette Education Service District. Super excited. And we also have with you Elena Fink, who's a data specialist, from Willamette Education Service District. And you guys are going to talk to us about how our district's collecting and using student data to inform RTI, which is a hot, hot topic. So excited to have you. Welcome.
Thank you. So did you want us to jump in right now?
Yeah, I'm going to stop share so you don't have to stare at yourself the whole time. And then let you guys share screen however you would like to, you and Elena. Is it Elena or Elena?
You can say it either way. It's fine.
Okay, good. Well, good to have you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We're super excited. And I'm going to be quiet now and go on mute and let you just share.
Thank you.
Sounds terrific. Okay, does that look good? Are you guys seeing my slides?
Yep, we're seeing them. Thank you.
Okay, terrific. So if we can just take a minute as people are maybe coming in to go into the chat and please share your name and your where you're from. So your name, where you're from, and job description, please. Make sure that you hit panelists and attendees so that we all get to see it. So I am the Senior Manager of Instruction and Distance Learning with Willamette ESD, and joining me today, as you just heard, is Elena Fink, the awesome Customer Support Specialist for Tech and SIS at Willamette ESD. A little bit about me: I've been a teacher, instructional coach, and most recently an administrator overseeing the online programs for a large district in Southern Oregon. I have experience with all models of distance learning, and this doesn't make me an expert, not in the COVID crisis education. So that's the reason I really chose this title carefully, because I think it's important for us to remember that while we are learning everything we can in a crazy situation about distance learning, this is not a distance learning traditional model. This is a crisis model of teaching and learning. And the beautiful opportunity is that we're all coming alongside each other at this point in time and learning together. So whether you're an administrator, a teacher, families, it's really given us that chance to explore what that looks like for us to come alongside each other as learners. Okay, if you can take a minute and read this note, this chat, read this quote. I'd like you to read it and think about, do you agree or disagree with this statement? And then if you could use the chat to do, you've probably seen this done before. It's called a waterfall chat. So if you can type in your answer, but don't hit yes, don't hit your answer yet. So agree, disagree, or if you're like me, you're going to be like trying to figure out the word for somewhere in the middle. But so I'll tell you when to hit send, but go ahead and type your answer in there. And then, okay, make sure it says panelists and attendees, and go ahead and hit return on that. And let's see where we are. Yes, and I love that. So I see a lot of agrees. I like the yes, and the mostly agree. So here's my thought on this. It's not a clear path ahead of us, and it hasn't been a clear path since this began. But I think we want to make sure we're keeping students and staff emotional and physical well-being, front and foremost on the priority list. And I think we're called at every turn to do things in a different way right now. So talking about data can be kind of a triggering or challenging. So I just want to encourage you to approach these conversations grounded in empathy and grace, and provide maximum opportunity for educators, students, and families to have opportunities for reflection and feedback. And okay, so the first question I ask myself when I'm looking at data is what kind of data am I trying to gather? So keeping it positive, because again, we want to keep those feelings positive right now. Why am I gathering this data? Who will it impact? How will it impact? And then a bigger question is, and this is where I'm saying data and reflection together, are we using data as a reflection of teaching and learning? So is it kind of a post-mortem of what we've done, or are we using it in a formative way to inform our teaching and learning? So the biggest problem, right? Who has time for data? And this is what I'm going to say as somebody who has been fortunate to work in an innovative model. People have been shifted to that innovative model against their will right now. I chose it. My teachers chose it. My students chose it pre-COVID. People are not choosing it right now. Innovative models simply rely on faster data cycles so that we can pivot in the moment. We can't wait until June to find out if what the news keeps saying is true about learning loss. And then finally, this is reliant on innovative leaders who are willing to think outside traditional schedules to provide additional time for teachers to collaborate and reflect and focus on the data that really matters. So a couple of considerations around gathering data, deciding on the what and the why, developing clear terminology to ensure you're measuring the same thing in the same way. This is a big problem with distance learning because if I asked you all right now to type in what does engagement mean in a regular traditional classroom, we would get a bunch of different answers. But engagement in distance learning really means something else, frequently means something else. So you have to, it doesn't matter what your definitions are, they just have to be common. And contact. Does contact mean meaningful contact? Are you connecting with a child? Are you making eye contact? Or does contact mean an email? And then another consideration is culture. How is this process going to foster a positive culture that encourages taking chances and supports educators' sense of shared efficacy? And then what are we going to do with the data once we have it? How are we going to use it? Are there any questions at this time? You're welcome to unmute and speak or put them in the chat. Nothing? I'm working on my wait time, so. Okay. So here are some possible indicators for online learning. When we look at the traditional early indicators, we've got that ABC, attendance, behavior, and coursework. Fortunately, the last several years of research have helped us to move away as educators from that narrow focus to a more whole child focused and a more holistic focus. I just shared with you some of the online early indicators that my team identified, and also that I've seen referenced in the Census Pulse survey. Everything I'm referring to is at the end of this slideshow, so you can access those resources. But if you're not aware of this, the Census Bureau has a Pulse survey that they're doing right now. And they asked several questions about families' perceptions of teaching and learning. And they break it down into items like teacher facilitated learning or amount of time spent working independently, amount of time spent working with a teacher. So what is the engagement in those specific areas? Progress, pacing was the #1 measure that we used. Just because it let us know if kids were engaging in the program. And then completion of assigned work is also one you could look at, proficiency and mastery levels. And then what connections are we making with teachers and or peers on a regular basis in a meaningful way? Are there any questions about that right there? I've hyperlinked in for you a list of an article from Panorama Ed, where they talk about 5 ways schools use early warning indicators to promote student success. And they also talk about how schools, looking more at the whole child. Okay, so a first step for me would be to inventory existing systems and data tools. Do you already have a SIS or gradebook that reports this information for you in real time? Because that's really what we're seeking, is real-time reporting. And in my instance, in my situation, we did not. So we really could not progress monitor or track our students within that existing system. Fortunately, one of the tools we used was Edgenuity, and it did allow for that progress monitoring. Okay, within this, I think it's important to take a look at common assessment tools and common assessment data, because again, I'm talking about, I think the power of this process right now is the opportunity for us to shift more agency to teachers and learners. And so those common assessment pieces are ones that have been created by teacher groups around what they know students need to do. Okay, we don't have a lot of time, so I'm not going to go to the Padlet, but I had a Padlet that I wanted to share with you where we could share some of the tools that you have that you're using. If we get to the end and we do have some time, I'll go ahead and come back to that. Is there any, let's go ahead and just use the chat though. Is there an existing data tool or system that you're using right now to support, to gather data that's relevant? I'm getting in here that my name is Gordon Rosen, is that correct? Or Gordon? Elena?
Jenny, you're
No,
fine. I'm just trying to get
you're
somebody
fine.
else to change their name.
Oh, okay. I keep seeing it. Interesting.
No questions yet.
Okay. All right. So just taking a minute to breathe. Are there any, what are you using at your schools to get those dipstick measures of how kids are doing right now? Is anybody using Canvas or Schoology? GoGuardian? I'm curious about GoGuardian. Maybe, Aaron, are you there? Maybe you can help me out here.
Not with GoGuardian.
You haven't used it before? I'm hearing a lot about it right now as a possible tool to monitor student usage and time on task.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's designed to do, a lot more than just say you can't go to that site. It's more like, hey, you spent this much amount of time on this site or this amount of time on that site. And also, Leilani would probably know more than me, but I think it also does pass-through single sign-on. But
Schoolzilla, yeah. Deborah says K5 nothing. Yeah, that's where we're having to get creative here. So that takes us to my next slide, which are some new tools that districts and PLCs are creating to measure what things that they decide they want to measure. So again, it's so important as we wade into these conversations as educators that we don't add something that's not value added right now. And please know that I am an advocate for making time for this reflection and gathering for teachers in meaningful teacher groups to do this work. So one district in Colorado decided that they would measure student completion. And, you know, different people have different opinions about that, but it's a single data point. So at the end of the week, teachers would fill out a form. This is pretty quick, right? You just enter the number of your students who have completed all of their assignments. And this is what it generated for them as a data piece. Are there any other things that you have created at your schools to address this, to give you different measures of data? All right, I'm going to move along to the reflection piece because I like that one. Okay, so it's really important for us to make time because of what's happening right now to some degree, right? There's kind of crickets when we talk about what data is there or what's available. So, oh, cool, tracking student engagement. I'm going to come back and ask you about that. So reflection is where we start and I think finish with these, to ensure this continuous improvement in a rapid cycle. So lots of time for reflection. So recently I was at the CDL, at the Portland Reading Council presentation, and they were sharing their reflection protocol, which is a stop, continue, start. And you can apply this to anything. You can use this with your students. These are my favorite tools. You can use it with your students. You can use it with your teachers, administrators, leadership team, parents. And once people get used to a common protocol, you just need to shift in the focus of the reflection. So you can see, it's basically, it says stop. What's not serving you or your students? What did you think was a great idea at the time but is not working out? And of course, you don't have to answer all of these questions. It's just to guide you into that. Stop. What are the things that I've been doing that probably aren't serving my goals? Continue. I love this. What's popping? What's running itself without your direct effort? What seems to connect with your students and motivate them? And then start. What are your aspirations? What aspirations do you have? You know, what is it? Something you read about, heard about, or you've seen somebody do? And then there's just an example given here. So I would love it if you would participate with me in this. And I've included, if you like this, excuse me, I'm about to start coughing. I have included in the resources a blank deck that you just click and it makes a copy, and you can modify that for your uses if you decide this is useful for you. So if you have the slides open, just click on open the shared slide deck. We don't have 5 minutes, so we're going to take 10 minutes to do, or 2 minutes to do the reflection. I believe, although Leilani, what is my time? I've been told about 20 minutes.
It looks like you have another 12, 13, so you're fine.
Okay. Derek said that it was going to be 30 cut down to 20 because of advertisements or.
No, we don't have one in this session, so you're cool.
Well, wow, we could have been doing the Padlet and a lot more engagement, folks. I apologize.
Let's do it.
We have time. Okay, well then let's take about 3 minutes on this shared slide piece, and I'm going to be showing you what it looks like. I love this protocol. If you're familiar with Edu protocols, that's like, it's one of my favorite books. Is for just great ways to come up with protocols that you use over and over and over again. So you're building student agency to plug in. They can plug in the content in the way that they respond, they show their learning. So they're just great Edu protocols. Okay, so Elena, will you drop the link to this in the drive also? So the way that Edu protocols work, he usually does it like a 1, 1, and 1, like 1 minute to think about it, 1 minute to grab a slide and go and do it, and then you come back in 1 minute to share what you did. So it's a super quick way for students to collaborate around one idea. And I absolutely love them. So the way it works is you're going to click on one of these slides below that is not occupied. So Aaron, stay off my slide, buddy. And you'll see as people click onto one that they are on them. Then I've put the protocol up here in case you need to kind of remind yourself or just read some of those prompts. But just click onto the slide, type in your name. I hope I didn't steal somebody's. And then type down into the box and go ahead and take some time to reflect on these ideas. I would like us to reflect on this idea of data. So I want us to think about what's not serving you or your students with the data or information you're focusing on. What did you think was a great idea, but it's not really working out? Okay, continue. What is something that you're focusing on and measuring that's really helping? And then what is something that you might want to introduce? Feel free to pull in pictures and have fun. And I will set, well, I've got time. I'll set the timer for about 3 minutes and then we'll see where we are. If you haven't used this before, if you look at my screen, notice how I can see that everybody's working. And I like here, look at that rock star. So I can, and I'll see my kids' faces or teachers' faces, depending on who I'm working on. So I can just click right in there and say, hey, dude, you need a little help getting started? Or great job. So this is one of those awesome tech tools that allows us to make more connections with kids and really be able to streamline the teaching and learning piece.
Hey, Jenny, this is Leilani.
Yes.
I just realized I'm one of those kids who's like, I'm trying to click on the screen itself. because I'm supposed to click on the link in chat, right? And
right.
I just wanted to comment, that's what's happening. What we hear from a lot of administrators, the teachers are like spending a lot of time telling people navigational issues. Like, no, you do this and then you do that. Is that your experience too, even with adults like me? Like, I'm a dork. I didn't know I was supposed to click on the link.
Well, if you used other platforms, you don't have to. You could just click on the shared screen.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so click on the share screen. Okay,
yeah, it's like a human navigation direction, blah, blah.
Yeah, it is. And here's the beauty of it. Here's what I would say, like when administrators say that, I say, well, look at what teachers are dealing with. It. This is the point we are in, where we're all experiencing the same thing. But yes, what I find is if you create an environment where people can ask, you can say, hey, I'm struggling. Like you have clear ways to get help and it feels safe. Then you can just ask. But I think the amount of time that we get to laugh about stuff like that is really awesome. So, yeah, technology, you've got to love it.
Jenny, do you also find that there is a certain art to this with teachers directing attention when they're online? You know, like there's certain best practices.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think that's why. So this is a great tool. If you can see what I'm looking at, I was noticing that number 7 down here, I'm like, I love it. I was going to put this in a chart form. So I love the way that we see people's different ways of expressing themselves and the creativity that comes out. I personally would be doing exactly that. So I hope you guys can see the big yes. I love it. So what I love about these tools are they allow many different ways in. So different types of learners have many different ways into engaging with each other. So right now, I think that's our biggest challenge is engaging kids with each other, engaging them with their teachers. So the more that we can have some fun and we can kind of see each other and collaborate, I think the better right now. But definitely the best practices are you spend the first 2 weeks teaching your kids the protocols and the tools that you're using. And teachers didn't really have that knowledge base going into this. But the same way that we teach kids the first 2 weeks in elementary school how to walk to the library, how, you know, all of our routines. Coaching in elementary was amazing after 20 years in secondary because the way that routines are taught so thoroughly. So then how do we make sure we bring that same commitment to teaching of routines, I love that one, into our work with technology? So here are my top, I don't know if it's data driven, but my top beliefs or best practices. Keep it simple. Use as few tools as you can to get the job done and to really achieve what you want. Technology is not the driver, learning is. So make sure you always start there. And then as much as you can engage kids and give them voice and choice, and teachers. So whenever we're talking about PD, we can't ask teachers to give students voice and choice, but not give that to teachers. So, all right, you invited me to my soapbox, Leilani, which I'm always happy to climb up on. Okay, so I'm just going to share this real quickly with you so you can see what happens. All right, so Deborah here went with yellow, so it's like really popping, right? Oh, I love it. Stop expecting students to complete work that's not at their level. Using Jamboard. So Jamboard's similar, Deborah, right, to what we're doing, kind of what we're doing here. And then asking for a platform to track engagement to free me up to teach. Hopefully if somebody knows of that I mean, we know that Canvas does that, but then teachers struggle with using Canvas. So this is it's a really the tough one. Okay, that's why she's a superstar. Okay, that I like. What is that? Exercise, work the muscle. Elena?
Sorry, I'm getting all into it. Yes, she's working out her brain. His or her brain is getting worked out and the kids are watching. So yeah. It's kind of like they're learning, but it's also good for you as well to teach it. Yeah. So it's just kind of modeling the behavior you want to have, digital fluency. So just modeling that for your students and let them see you make a mistake or mess up, but you're still doing it.
Yeah. Okay. So Stafford. Okay. Let's see. So stop. We suspended using STAR assessments since COVID, which also had us communicate not to use old results to make decisions about students. That's interesting. Okay. Using report card marks, now quarterly, trusting and empowering teacher judgment about students' academic progress. And then iterate report card descriptors to be more standards-based and aligned K-5, make the data reporting formative, and create data system to monitor progress. It's so hard. So just so you know, I did this in not COVID emergency time, and it was really challenging work. So be kind to yourself. And if I think most of us are teachers in here. I'm not sure if you're a teacher. Advocate for this time. It's written in the ODE. If we're all from Oregon, it's in the ODE recommendations. It's called out in the teacher evaluation materials that we step away this year from, that we give teachers more time to do this. It takes more time than traditional classroom teaching, dramatically more time. So that's really interesting. I actually have questions about that, but I'm going to end up running out of time here. So am I missing anybody in the? Come on, Aaron, you didn't give me a slide? All right, you're in trouble. Okay, so thank you for sharing that.
I'm not working with students, Jenny. It's kind of difficult for me to tell you what's working.
Say that again. Oh, you're not working with students? Oh, I hear you, and that's a really good observation. So here's something I guess I didn't set up well enough. This is a tool that we want to use regularly, like weekly, with our teachers, parents, students. So how do we help them to find a way into it so that if the question doesn't quite fit, that's part of the art. So I didn't do a very good job of that. So the art is, how do we engage them in that reflective process so that they can just take off and go? And there's different strategies for that, but I don't want to go too far into the weeds on this.
Hi,
So
Jenny. We are at time if you want to wrap up.
you got it. Here's the main thing I want to say. Collective teacher efficacy is off the charts as far as improving student learning outcomes. Off the charts. This is where we need to be focusing on building teacher efficacy, and in a strengths-based supportive environment. I want everybody to be thinking about this as we navigate this time. So how do we make sure that we don't go back to a static factory model? And I'm not saying that everybody was doing that, but how do we make sure as a team of educators that we take the things we've learned from this year and apply the ones that did work? So that is it. There are some resources here. That pulse survey, I've given you that protocol. If you just click it, it'll make your own copy that you can modify. And just some other stuff that I think is interesting. And let's connect. That's where you can find me.
Well, thank you so much, Jenny and Elena. That was awesome. Fun for the whole. And thanks for joining us today. Stay on if you want to. Introduce Renae. Renae, can you pop on and share your camera and unmute?
Hello, everybody. Hi, Leilani.
Hi. And I think we also, do we have Heidi Anderson with us and Paul Schiffman too?
I think Heidi's here. Paul may not be here, but hello, Heidi.
Yeah. Hi, Heidi.
Hi, everyone.
Okay. And I think we have Paul too.
Oh,
All right. So you guys, yeah, hi. So you can take the screen if you want to share for a little bit. We want to know what's going on with you. I've been talking to a lot of educators lately about professional grade software, since 74% of teachers are reporting being so overwhelmed. You know, they're having to sort of knit together various little chunks of knowledge into lesson plans when this stuff already exists. So I'm interested to find out kind of what's happening with you guys besides what's going on in your product. So over to you.
Great. Thank you so much. I will share my screen as well. And I will say it is great to be among my fellow Oregonians. Do you notice sunshine outside my Metro Portland area window? Yes, we have sunshine, although we're expecting snow soon. So hope you all are hanging tight and enjoying some beautiful weather today. Leilani, can you stop sharing so that I can grab that from you? That would be fantastic. Perfect. Thank you. So as Leilani said, we talk to districts quite heavily in the area of hybrid learning and blended learning. And I come from a space of being in the blended learning era for many, many years. And we may not think that hybrid or blended learning was really a thing prior to COVID, but it definitely was. Leilani and I have known each other for years as well, so I've seen a lot of the work that's been done. But this is the year where everybody is accelerating the need to embrace it and understand, what does that really look like for my students and for my classrooms and for the support of my teachers as well. So what we're going to talk about today, just briefly, is how we are leveraging and seeing a lot of schools take on this, the use of our solution called Actively Learn. And I'm going to talk to you about that. I'm going to actually take you live. I think it's best to show you exactly how teachers are embracing a technology with the use of one of our solutions. So blended learning can mean any of these. I was just speaking with a district leader today, and he mentioned, well, we're going back. And actually, he was in Oregon. And he said, we're going back and we're going to be somewhat in person, but we don't even know what that's going to look like just yet. And it's different across every school. So there are names around these, but what we really need to focus on, and what we do focus on at Actively Learn with one of our Achieve platforms, is that we want to engage students with consistent content on a flexible platform. And I've bolded some words there because you're going to see how we engage students. Engagement is huge, and it was huge pre-COVID. It was even bigger during this year, where in Oregon, our students haven't been in school for almost a year now. And we need flexible platforms, though, because we want to make sure that our teachers have flexibility to make the classroom what they need it to be. But at the same time, we need it consistent across the Oregon standards. We need it consistent across what every teacher is able to provide students. And we need to make sure it's consistent to make sure it's accessible to all students. So I'm going to move over now to actually showing you an example of Actively Learn, and a lesson of a student, or a classroom, I should say, where a teacher has assigned the book of Mice and Men. Now, those of you who may know high school or teach in high school, or have those connections to the high school curriculum, we know of Mice and Men as generally something that's taught in the high school level. But when students receive the content of Mice and Men, often they've got the physical book and they're reading a few chapters, and then the teachers are asking them questions, therefore, at the end of every chapter. But what we do in Actively Learn is we provide teachers with some background information and support to teach this, but the student experience includes questions built into the text with annotations made directly in margin notes to engage students in the learning, to engage them in their reading. So for example, if they're reading about this Soledad in the Salinas River, where is that in reference to where we are today, or where the student is? What does split wedge mean as they're reading? So we're making context to things that the students may need additional annotation made and given to them. But most importantly, what I love even greatly is the collaboration that we see that students can have. So not only do we bring key terms like what is a bindle, which dates you back to the Great Depression time, but a bindle is a bag made from a blanket that was used to carry belongings. And here you can see some students talking about, I've seen pictures of this before, and then another student says, oh, this is like the first version of a backpack. So we're engaging students in conversation, and we're also checking for understanding, anchored to the text where it matters most. All of these annotations and questions we have built in for teachers, but a simple edit button allows me as a teacher, like I said, that flexibility. I can come in here and say, no, when I teach of Mice and Men, it's really important to call this piece out. So we really do want to find opportunities for that engagement, consistency, and the ability for me to browse a variety of content across English, language arts, science, and social studies, and know that every single content I give my students has that ability to add questions and annotate, and really thinking about those words I shared before, really looking at engaging students. It's consistent, so all teachers can leverage the same content and give all students access to the same material, but also flexible enough that teachers can make it their own. And then finally, I will just close on sharing what that has meant for us at Achieve 3000 this past year. On average, students in Actively Learn receive double the rate of teacher comments and feedback compared to prior years. So the rate of teacher responses and feedback doubled. In addition, 40% of our teachers who signed up had students active within 24 hours. Active meaning they were already reading, already assigned content, and already answering questions. And 75% were active within the first week. And then finally, we do see that, and we did see, this past year, that first time access we noticed that there was 4 times as many assignments. Students answered 25 or 24% more questions, spent 16% more time reading, and wrote 10% more words compared to prior years. So when hybrid learning is incorporated with consistency and to engage students and flexible for teachers, we're seeing exponential use across those hybrid models. So thank you, Leilani. I know that's a short, quick, I went a little over my 5 minutes, but I appreciate the time and sharing with everybody today.
Yeah, that was great. And I think I just want to keep you on for just a couple more seconds. And that is what the Learning Council has been observing is that, 50% more of the market joined the fray with massive issuing devices. We had San Juan Unified in Sacramento on the other day, and they issued 25,000 devices right after quarantine started. And largely what happened is they tried to transpose, the world of physical classes into Zoom meetings, and teachers mad scrambling to put together lesson plans that then when they execute on are a talking head only. The problem with that is that it meant that you had to keep like 8-year-olds on a Zoom call for 6 hours a day. And that didn't work. It didn't work anywhere. And the backlash is huge. So what this is doing is it's automating some of the distribution function of the actual pieces of knowledge that need to be interacted with in a sometimes asynchronous way. So how often are you seeing schools actually distribute this professional grade stuff asynchronously?
We're seeing it distributed pretty heavily when it comes to those that are incorporating it in the right way that they should be. And with our professional services that we offer, we're helping teachers to understand how to offer that in a mix of synchronous and asynchronous. But you're right, Leilani, it is very difficult. I can date myself by taking myself back many years when I started in the virtual/digital space of education. And we noticed the most reluctant students would be completely fine with typing or engaging in a asynchronous way. But the minute you turn a camera on, they shut down. They get really nervous. They have difficulties even in the classroom raising their hand. But the students who have that opportunity to stop, think, look at other students' responses, take their time, work at their own pace, they're more willing to engage in those conversations. That's why we were seeing double or 4 times, it said, the number of notes students were responding to, because they were in that safe opportunity to have some asynchronous learning opportunities as well.
Yeah, but it's also more than that, because I noticed when you did your demo that you have the user interface is built so that it's your eye traverses the screen. So you're not just on the main content. There's stuff happening in the side column as well. That's good UI, right? Like, so one of the things the Learning Council is focusing our attention on this year is raising the baseline of education of all leaders in America to understand user interface and user experience quality, because there's a huge difference between passing out a PDF and something that engages the eye to traverse the screen and interact in a different way than human interaction, but that also hopefully is engineered, like you've shown. You have a software that's engineered to sort of force the intersection of humans, right? Like, so the teacher has a human role, but it's a precision role. It's not just, I got to direct everybody's attention on every little thing. I'm needed here. And probably particularly for the kids that are moving slower. Am I right about that? Like how a teacher can say, oh, this kid's like not moving very fast, and swoop in and do the human direct instruction thing.
Yes, absolutely. We can track exactly. There's a nice chart that shows which question every student is on. And that's the beauty of asking those questions, engaging students as they're reading versus read these 3 chapters and answer these 10 questions at the end. No, let's check in with the student as they're reading. That also promotes finding evidence in text. That promotes looking for inferences and drawing students' attention to those pieces, as opposed to waiting until the end, grading all those assigned responses, and then realizing, oh, wait, half my class missed the main concept of this reading of this material way at the beginning. So we're stop them, figure it out, and then teachers are given that data to be able to track those students.
Yeah, and I think that's the most important point, because we're in a moment of grief nationally. Kids are in grief. They miss being together. Teachers miss being together. And so if you don't have something and that you're using that is going to refine what you're doing digitally down to precision human interaction, so the humans are used to their best human quality, then you're probably doing it wrong.
Right.
So excited that you got to show and tell on this, because I'm trying. I don't want to seem like I'm like promote the pro grade only stuff, but I kind of am, because I'm looking at the numbers, Renae, and 20% of kids aren't coming back even when schools are going back. They don't want to come back. They're freaked out still. They want to remain remote. So pretty much all schools in America are having to stand up a remote option permanently. And then you have another huge percent. It's somewhere between 33 and 42% of America has left traditional public altogether for homeschooling, privates, or charters. Charters are still public.
Mm-hmm.
But we're living in an avalanche moment of, you got to get your act together. So cool. So thanks for sharing. So I'm going to move on, take the screen back from you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Paul and Heidi. Paul, do you want to say hello first before we run off?
Hello. I don't know if you can hear me. I had some audio difficulties. Welcome. And thank you again, Leilani and Doug, for the opportunity. This one in Oregon is unique because even though, as you know, we do international and a lot of national business, two of our finest folks, Renae, Heidi's just coming on board as a regional director for Oregon and Washington. We're excited to have, folks that are local in Oregon to help, really understand regionally everything that's going on, but also help serve that area. But, we do a lot of learning councils, and we've done a lot recently, actually, in the last couple of weeks, and all have been very involved, very informative, and we really, we're just very appreciative to kind of put out there how we can help our district partners and the folks on a regional basis. So we appreciate that.
Cool. Heidi, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hello. Hi, everyone. So nice to meet you. Thank you, Leilani, for having me, and Renae, beautiful job. And I'm just really excited to be joining the team at Achieve 3000 and supporting our folks in Oregon and Washington. So hopefully I'll be seeing you all around soon.
Cool. Yeah, and put your email address in chat.
I will, for sure. Yes, thank you.
Find you.